Hey, 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 you guys. Welcome back to Coaching for Coaches and Stop Suffering in Silence. This is going to go on both podcasts today because I have a really special guest. Our friend Mae has been literally abused, trafficked, exploited since she was born. And she's going to tell us a bit about what happened in her first 10 years of life. She was adopted at the age of 10 and started finally feeling safe. Throughout the last couple decades of her healing journey, she has been re traumatized and really had to learn how to heal the triggers once and for all. Because being safe is just step one. She has since written two books, one called Vulnerable, which is her story, her autobiography, explaining how she has, come so far and all the details of how you can, if you've been in difficult situations, how you can heal too. But then she also has a book called I'm Triggered, which I think for our fellow coaches out there will be really fascinating and a really great resource to not only help us heal from our own triggers, but also to support our clients. So I can't wait to hear all about it. Big welcome to Mae Kumko. Did I say it right? I didn't even.
Yes, yes, you did. And thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Yes. Well, I always say this is going to be a great conversation, but like this, we're talking about really hard stuff. So I do want to issue a trigger warning. If this is, we're going to be talking about hard stuff, abuse, trafficking, exploitation of children. And so if this is something that you find triggering, right, then take care of yourself. We absolutely want you to do that. But I think this is a conversation that needs to be had, May, because people don't realize that it's happening and they don't know to keep their eyes open for it. So, why don't you start by sharing a bit about what your first 10 years looked like?
Yeah, I would say turmoil is a great word to describe it, and chaos. I was born with my mom, my birth mother, already addicted to drugs. So from the get-go, I had to withdraw from that, and the exposure to her lifestyle, who she put into my life really affected me. There was a lot of physical, sexual, emotional abuse, and I absorbed a lot of what was said to me. I looked through life in a negative lens because that was all that I got from the get-go. From 0 to 9 years old was surviving each
Hmm.
day, literally just getting through the day, hoping that I would be able to get my siblings and us out of this situation. And eventually, my voice worked, and I was able to share my piece to a worker, and he was able to report that situation. And that kind of is what get got the ball rolling per se for
Okay.
getting me out of
So,
such a
how many are you the oldest? How many siblings do you have?
Yes, so I am the third oldest.
Third.
I have 11 siblings, I believe.
Who was all living in the house with you? How many were at the home?
Yes, so there were seven of us.
Okay. Wow. And I'm assuming your mom was a single mom, or was
Yes.
your dad around?
So the first couple years, my birth dad was around, but he was very angry, abusive, struggled with alcoholism and rage. And he's homeless currently as we speak.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So it sounds like there was emotional instability in the home, right? If your parents are doing drugs, you are
Mhm.
always walking on eggshells because they can be mad about the silliest thing, or they're just not available and you're kind of on your own to raise
Exactly.
yourself and to handle your own problems, which at 3 and 4 is not very secure feeling because you don't have anyone to support you or help you. Did you
Absolutely.
have food? Did you go to school or were you kind of on your own? Tell me a little bit about what life was like as a child.
Yeah, in the beginning years, it was very I would say scarce for food. I would often steal from stores, and obviously, I'm not happy about that. I just did what I could to get food. I would eat rotten stuff on in trashes just to get something in my belly. I, my mom used a lot of her money and her resources, her welfare money, for diapers and drugs. And she abused the system and abused us in the process. She allowed people to come into our home and they groomed us, took pictures of us, used us, and then we had to repeat, just repeat, repeat. And after a while, I learned that my body survived that, and disassociation, PTSD, DID kind of became me as a way to protect myself from what I was going through physically, emotionally, and sexually. Um, I survived that.
Can you
So,
describe to the listeners who might not really understand what dissociation is and what it is and how it like actually is helpful in the moment?
yeah, it's a survival mechanism. It's literally a shut off switch in your nervous system. It literally was like my body could not handle the pain or what it was encountering, and it numbed out, took me out of the space, and almost like a blank. Like things go black, numb out, I'm not there, I couldn't feel, and all of that.
And so did you remember the men coming in or the like specific situations at that time, or did you have memories that surfaced later?
Yes. So as I got older, flashbacks started to happen,
Hmm.
and I didn't understand the stories entangled in them. I only knew the abuse, what I read in felony reports, and what like I could remember in my childlike brain. But all that would flood back when my doctors prescribed a surgery and then infusions to kind of like an onion go through the layers of where did I get this from? Why am I disassociating? Just the
Oh,
connection between all of it came full
okay.
circle.
Okay, so we'll get into the healing journey in a bit, but it
Yeah.
sounds like you started the flashback started when you were on the healing journey because you were still dissociating even years
Yes.
later.
Yes.
Okay.
All
Uh,
through.
Yeah, and that all makes sense because when your abuse is happening between the first, 7 years of life, right? That's when our subconscious is hardwiring, and
Yeah.
that's when we really learn about our view of ourself and our world. And this is when attachment is happening. Do I feel safe? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel avoidant? Like what's going on? And so there's a lot of hardwiring that happens when, and I'm sure, I mean, even outside of being 10, but it's also not surprising, right? That in your first 10 years, some of what your body is learning and how it's handling is now kind of the way you be until you retrain it. Um, okay, hold on. I had another question.
It's
Slash.
almost
Oh,
like
and then DID. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about because you can have dissociation, but not necessarily DID, which stands for what?
dissociated identity disorder
Okay, so
and
you
split.
can have one or the other or both. Is that right?
Yes. And I
Okay,
had
so tell us
both.
what DID is.
Yes. So dissociation identity disorder is literally where your body splices out, and you might be aware of what's happening partially, but sometimes your mind completely shuts off and you're not aware. You will have moments where you blank out almost, and I would still be living and doing things, but not fully aware of what I was doing. And honestly, real talk, it took someone I loved recording me disassociating in order for me to fully be like convinced that I had dissociation identity disorder. I had the diagnoses from when I was younger and going through clinicals and hospitalizations when I was younger. But to fully come and grasp with the fact that I disassociated, I needed to see the recording.
Interesting. Would you say that dissociation is kind of like step one and DID is like another layer to that?
hmm I would say so, because you're a completely different person than who you I cop to, like who you cop to. Like I am kind. That's what I cop to. Or I can be scatterbrained. I cop to that. The dissociation identity disorder was oftentimes things I would not cop to as my core person. That
Okay.
makes sense.
So with dissociation, you're not losing yourself, you just have blank spots. Like
Yes.
your brain really takes you to a safe place, not meaning that it's flowers and a, beautiful meadow. Like you're not necessarily somewhere else, but it kind of shuts down so you aren't in the moment, feeling it, experiencing it, whatever. But with DID, it seems like when potentially you were triggered, and we can talk through what might make you switch, you kind of flipped to a,
Protection character.
yeah, okay.
Something
So
that,
would you say
yeah.
there was one other character or one other
There
identity
were
or more?
many,
Okay.
many. Yep, I
Okay.
had a lot, and I would say seven probably.
Okay.
Now I'm fully whole, which people might not understand that clearly um, now, but my book is going to tell all of that and how I came into wholeness
That's
and
amazing.
the hope of it, the hope of split personality and DID can be healed. I'm a proof of that.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Okay. So the first 10 years, you said you were exploited for drug money, and basically trafficked and really had and neglected. I mean, I can't imagine that a mother who is putting you in a life situation like that is caring for your scraped knee either. So fairly neglected. So does that mean that your child, like the siblings were raising each other? Did you guys have a good bond, or was that learned behavior amongst your siblings as well, where there was abuse happening there?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. I can't tell to their stories, but some of my elder siblings would participate in the abuse, not because they wanted to, but because that's what they saw
Yeah.
daddy or mommy do. And then to your question about the parenting role, I did feel like I had to step up as the older kid, even though I was a child myself. I had to parent and feed, find food, keep my siblings safe.
Yeah. Yeah. So you really didn't get to be a child.
Not at all. No.
Now, was this happening in Michigan,
Yes. Yep.
in the Grand Rapids area?
It was, I would say Detroit, Grand
Okay.
Rapids. Yeah.
Okay. I grew up in Detroit area too, so I'm like, I'm interested in the
Yes.
like, did the system fail you is the question, right? Because we need to like make sure that the system is working. Were you going to school at that time?
So when I became of age, of school age, I did start to go. And then obviously there is lack of, care in that. Like
Oh,
my mom shaved my head completely bald because I struggled with lice. So that was another element of shame, feelings that I carried with me all throughout my life until I integrated and felt those feelings fully.
right.
Um, but yeah,
So did your teachers notice anything? Did you get any support at school? Was school your escape, or did you really just not go very much?
I didn't go very much. Um, and I was terrified to go home. So it was like an escape, but it also was another area of shame because I was mocked by a lot of kids, bullied. I didn't have the clothing, but I also went to a school that was very impoverished. I don't know if you know the name of it. It's called Sibley or Straight.
Where
Uh,
is it?
it's in the Grand Rapids area.
Okay.
It's called Sibley.
I'll look it up. Okay.
But yes, I liked going for the learning, and I do think teachers may have started to pick up the more I started to expose my skin, the more I started to show signs of the rotting teeth, the bruises all over my body, and then eventually the wounds that I started to come in with stitches and all of that.
Okay. Okay. And so you said at the age of 9, you started telling people. Tell me more about when you decided, okay, like something's got to give. What was that breaking point where you said, I've got to do something like this can't, nobody's going to help us. We got to help ourselves.
Yeah, I for me, it sounds so childish, but the moment I wanted to use my voice the loudest was the moment I wanted to be like the children and be in the pool with them. But I
Mm.
was afraid because I had wounds that you couldn't see on the outside. And I was afraid of contaminating the water. So I told a counselor at a YMCA what had happened to me the day before. And that vocal became a statement that's in one of my court documents that created a felony charge against my abusers or one of my abusers. Uh,
Wow.
but yeah, that was the first time was I just wanted to be in the water, but I didn't want to contaminate the water by the pain that was inflicted on me the day before.
Wow. It is, that is a unique, well, because I expected you to say, I didn't want people to see my wounds. I didn't want to wear a bathing suit, but you were worried about hurting something else, about your wounds impacting like that's a very interesting um, mind game because I feel like as a child, that tells me you were really watching what other people were doing and how what you did impacted them. Because I think I was expecting you to say the like flip side, right? You didn't want people to look at you, but no, you were worried about impacting them. And I think that tells us a lot about where your mind's at.
Yeah. And I think it would have definitely kept on compounding
Yeah.
as my siblings got older.
Yeah.
And if there was more interest in them sexually or physically, I think that vengeance in me would have definitely kept on trying to run away like I was already, kept on trying to get help for them. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that what I was living
Yeah.
wasn't normal
Right.
until someone told me.
Right. No, that does. It makes a lot of sense. You didn't, I mean, you didn't like it, but you didn't even, part of you, I'm sure, wasn't even totally remembering what was happening. So it's hard to tell a story if there's blank spots.
Yeah.
But if you saw that duplicated with your younger siblings, you had that protective mama bear spirit. And so good for you. Good for you. I love that when you had the urge to speak, you did. You didn't stuff it down. You didn't, you know, just say, oh, never mind. Like you actually used your voice.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the YMCA counselor actually did something.
Hmm.
Oh my
And
goodness.
ironically, his same name is the name of my husband now.
Aw.
Like the person I was able to vocalize that to became my husband's name and the person that I was actually finally able to share the full story with, which is
Yeah.
like, I feel like God is even in that, you
Like
know?
your subconscious was like, this name is safe.
Safe.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, okay, so you tell the counselor, I mean, I know none of this happens quickly typically, right? So, I mean, as a clinical psychologist, I've had to call CPS before, and, they often have to go to the home and do their own investigation, and, it can take time for that to happen.
Yeah.
Did CPS come out? What was the next step? did CPS tell your mom that it was you? I want to know a little bit about how the system supported you or failed you in this time.
Yeah, so actually, CPS was starting to come to our house prior to that event.
Okay.
That was the event that literally the next day, cops came to our house and arrested him. Like it
Oh.
was that quick.
Was
And
this mom's boyfriend? Was this a uh
yep, this was
okay.
stepdad, mom's boyfriend, my repeat abuser, someone who
You
was
didn't just say
like,
something happened. You actually gave names, which I think
mhm,
takes even more courage. Good for you.
yeah, yep. And that literally, and I was an atheist at the time too, but I had had a little seed of a mustard seed of faith from someone who was in my life during that time. And literally the day before, I told the YMC worker I literally was a little girl in a basement, literally musty basement, darkness in that basement, crying out to a God I didn't even know. And literally, I'm going to cry. But it was that moment. The next day, I told my story, and then the motion forwards is just literally history.
Wow. Okay. So they came and arrested him. How did your mom handle that?
Yeah, so my mom left. She completely left the situation. We didn't even see her probably for like a
Did she get
month.
arrested too? Because she
She did
should
not.
have for neglect. If she, I'm sure there was abuse happening with her, but if not, neglect at the very minimum, you know?
Yes, you'd think, but no, she did not. Um, we ended up staying with my abuser's mother, which became another abusive situation for me because she found out that I was the one who told.
Okay.
So my abuse did not stop the moment he left. It almost got worse for me physically with what she did, the punishment she inflicted, the shutting me up tactics
How
was
long were you
very,
with her before you went to another foster home?
I would say 2 years maybe.
Oh, goodness.
And then
That's a
I,
place where I would say, okay, CPS, like, why would you choose his mom? And you just wonder what they were thinking.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay, so tell me a little bit about how your siblings, and I know you can't share their story, obviously, but were they happy? Were they sad? Were they mad? Were they confused? Did they come with you to this new home?
yeah. I think a little bit of both. And I share that in vulnerable, like our in the car leading up to our waiting home, we ended up going to DA Blodgett and we were there with other kids and we ended up having to get separated. So I think that confusion for them and all of us was really, really hard because we couldn't stay as one big family. Um, but yeah, I don't know if we froze here.
Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like, I mean, it's one thing to be taken from home and with police coming and all of that, it's traumatic, even if it's good. Like obviously we want him out. We want it to be clear. Like this is not a maybe he'll come back. Like no, the police got him. He's a bad guy. Like we want that to be very clear. But now you guys are being separated. You're going to different homes, and there's a lot of uncertainty, I'm sure, at that time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, so bad grandma had you guys for about 2 years,
Yeah.
and it sounded like you were adopted by somebody, by a family you
Yes.
liked. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my foster parents became my grandparents, if that makes sense. It was very confusing for me as a child.
Is it the stepdad's grandmom, the stepdad's mom?
So adopted. So I was adopted. Um, so my it's confusing to a different family,
Okay, so you
but
were,
they initially were my adopt or like foster parents.
uh-huh.
My foster parents, we ended up getting adopted by one of their daughters and son-in-law.
Okay, okay.
I started out siblings with my adoptive mom, if that makes sense. It was very confusing.
How old is she? I'm sure she was older.
Oh yeah, so she is now, I want to say she just turned 50
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I'm 33.
Yeah. Okay. So how special is that? So you were brought into this family and the parents and they had their own kids and one of their own kids adopted you.
Me and my eldest sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And is this a place where you felt safe?
Yes, I would say initially, yes, but they didn't realize what was going on behind closed doors with my sister until they heard her physically smashing my head up against the wall.
Okay.
So there was a lot of turmoil with my sister, with me, and then eventually brain injury down the road. That would be kind of the cherry on top for the chaos I had inside my system. Just completely
Yeah. Because
disconnect.
not only were your first 10 years, your body is basically always in fight or flight mode. And you're always on the lookout for what's gonna, waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Yes.
You don't know who you are or what you want or what you like because you don't even have time or brain space to think about that. And then you're finally in a safe place, but unless the healing journey starts, like just being safe is step one. Like you cannot heal if you don't feel safe. Safe. We always say that, right? So getting out of
Yes.
the situation is always step one. But then you do need to, like, there's got to be some work done, right? We got to retrain your subconscious, retrain your nervous system, heal some of those neural pathways. When did you really start digging into the healing part?
Yeah. So for me, it actually took me all the way into my 20s
That makes sense based on,
because I was surviving still in my adoptive family, but it was better, safer. I had beautiful memories of like going camping and having beautiful moments, but it also was jaded with abuse from my grandparents ended up adopting same age kids as us, and they had very similar experiences to my beginning. And when that met, I also was devalued by some of those siblings.
right? So then abuse happened again, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I went silent about this,
Hmm.
honestly, until I wrote my book.
Okay. And that makes sense because my guess is that the foster parents didn't quite know what to do with everyone. Like, did they put you into counseling when you were a teenager?
Oh yes. My adopted mom is a social worker. So
Okay.
she knew from the get-go I needed some relearning,
Yeah.
needed someone to help navigate my mental health. She knew. I just don't know if she knew or understood the gravity
Yeah.
of how much work and relearning I needed.
Yeah. And I used to work in Berry County. So if you know Grand Rapids, it's a bit south. And I was at their mental health, Berry County Mental Health. And it's tricky because I I had 80 clients. So I saw people, maybe twice a month.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's unless you do an inpatient or an IOP or a more intensive option, that just outpatient therapy isn't the thing that's going to really rewire you because most clinicians, unless you go to a private agency or obviously maybe that was just our clinic that was really busy like that, but um, my guess is you probably needed a bit more intensive than just once or twice a month.
Oh, for sure. I
Yeah.
probably needed like twice a week.
Well, I'm glad you found, but it sounds like too, your foster mom, you felt like you could talk to her at some points, maybe not everything, but you did feel safe with her, and that was at least the beginning of a new start.
Building. Yes. Yep. The new slate to rebuild. And she
Yeah.
really helped. I was behind a lot in school.
Yeah.
I was so behind. So they really dug me out and helped push me forward. Wouldn't be here today without that start, for sure.
Wow. Did you end up graduating?
I did. Yep. Graduated from college. And then I'm still learning and doing training now.
Right. Aren't we all lifetime learners?
Yes.
All right. So what would you say are the healing steps that once you got into your 20s and maybe you took a bit more ownership or understanding, because I know, when teens are brought to therapy, it's usually not like, oh, yay for this. I'm so glad to be here. So I'm sure you learned some things, but it sounds like in your 20s, you really took ownership of it and said, all right, like if I want life to be different, just like you did when you were 9, like I got to do something.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the steps you took to start healing in your 20s.
Yeah. I needed a switch of a path. I was not living life, honestly. I It took a breaking for me to change
Yeah.
and realize that talk therapy was not working. I tried everything in the book for healing.
Did
For
you do
me,
did you do DBT?
yes,
Yeah.
DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
I did it
DB
all.
For those that don't know, DBT is a really great model for those who've experienced trauma. I teach it, like pieces of it in my clinical skills for dream life coaches and things. Um, but yeah, it's it's a skill, but it's not necessarily going to re-hardwire you. You know what I mean? So I'm sure there was more things to learn.
Yes. Once I got out of the denial and I realized that my system could not be calmed by just talking through it, I needed literally a shock wave to get me my computer inside my brain, rebooting in the normal way that it should have. Connections went dormant because of the abuse that I sustained. All of that rewired my brain. And doing the surgery shut off that fight or flight switch. The ganglia nerves all were shut off by the surgery, and I was finally able to breathe. And that's where the DBT therapy and all of that could be understood because my body was no longer just fight or
Freaking out.
flighting
Yeah.
all the time. Literally, when the switch is always on,
Yeah.
you can't concentrate, you can't focus, you can't learn new things.
Yeah.
And can't is a destroying word,
I
but
often say
literally,
you can't dream if you're living in drama, right?
yeah,
And if your body's in freak out mode and your brain's in monkey mind and like like step one, get it.
exactly.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the surgery. What did they do?
Yeah, so they took literally an anesthesiologist went in with a needle and shut off the ganglia nerves. Literally shut it off.
Now you said this was experiential or was this
Yes. So
okay?
I was in a trial stage.
Okay.
My counselor and my husband went to bat for me on this, and they explained the story, explained the turmoil, explained that if something didn't work, I would lose my family and my like whole situation. My kids were seeing like such a emotionally chaotic version of me that I didn't want them to see. I wanted to be healed completely and live fully like God calls us to be free, live freely and fully. And I wanted that. And I wasn't, it's like, I feel like I'm drowning every day until that surgery, until the Stella ganglier block surgery. Felt like I was pushing everybody up and I was underwater.
Wow. Fascinating. Was this in Grand Rapids too?
This was actually in Florida.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. And that trial, I got accepted into the trial. They did studies on me, they did research and all of that. It was part of the process to figure out if this could help PTSD. And they realized it helped the PTSD, the split personality, depression, and suicidal ideations. I have not had one suicidal ideation since I did the surgery.
Wow. So does your fight or flight system really just not work anymore? Like it's not, you're kind of offline in that way, meaning you're always calm.
Yeah, so I am more embodied. So
Okay.
I have to be more in tune to where the sweat comes when I'm anxious or my emotional response, like my biological responses to things that I know trigger me. And
Okay.
that's where like the trigger mapping is so important. But having like that calm literally rerouted the rest of my brain.
Okay. So would you say your body is always in rest and digest now?
I wouldn't
Like it-
say
the
I was
parasympathetic.
normal,
Okay.
like a normal response, like,
So it's just not in
anxiety.
freak out mode anymore.
Yeah,
Okay.
not in freak out mode anymore.
Okay. Okay. So now that, and was that trial approved? Is this something they're going to continue to do?
Yeah, it was approved. I got the surgery, and part of that approval was also doing the ketamine infusions. And it
Okay.
was high dose. Um, and something I would have to do for, I literally did it for a full year.
Okay.
And the discovery that I gained, the healing that I gained through it, the clarity, the remembering of the things I dissociated from was huge for me becoming whole and healed as a
Okay.
person.
So I'm assuming that year healing was your full-time job.
Yes. Well, I worked as well on top of it, but yes, it was full.
Wow. Wow. Okay, because once they kind of cut through or the ganglion nerves and you weren't in freak out mode or fight or flight mode all of the time, you could, your body was calm enough to allow the memories and the flashbacks to come up. I'm assuming you've read about The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So for those that haven't read it and you're interested in trauma work, The Body Keeps the Score is a great book. And what it sounds like is your body was then relaxed enough for these memories and flashbacks and things to come, which sucks in itself to have these memories and be reliving them and things like that. But we know that once you do, it goes from like flashback to just memory, and it's not, you're not emotionally connected to it anymore. So
right.
I'm hoping you had a therapist or, a team of people you were working with that year to help you
A
work.
relearning. Yep. And the relearning, I literally had to start from ground floor all the way up from learning nonviolent communication, um, reading that book, and learning how to implement that in my life, how to use breath work, how to trigger map in my own journal, and how to identify where triggers were still coming from, full embodiment, all of that. And God met me in the relearning process as well.
Wow. Tell us a bit about the trigger mapping, because my guess is that there probably were times in your life where you were just reacting and you didn't even quite realize you were triggered. And so once you start realizing, oh, like I don't need to respond this way, or I don't need to be upset for days, or there is another way to live. Tell us about a bit about what trigger mapping is and how it helped you.
Yeah, it's literally, I am journaling my reactions, my responses, my impulses, and then bringing it back to something that's familiar in my childhood and associating it with my current trigger and why I overreact the way I do. So I'm trying to think of um, an instance. So, like, fight or flight is a response or an impulse that people might do to someone yelling. That is, so if someone yells, identifying what your response to that is, and it's hard to explain without going through the
Well, it
actual.
sounds like an example could be if, somebody's yelling, does your body tense up? Does your stomach get all funky? Does your heart start to race? Like, how are you physiologically? How are you feeling? What do? My guess is like, do you run? Do you punch a wall? Do you hide? Like, what are, you really want to pay attention to not only how your body responds, but how you personally react to these specific triggers. Because once you can identify it, then you can do something about it. If you don't even really realize it's happening, then it's automatic, right? So once you bring it to light, as we say, then you can decide, all right, well, it sounds like first you brought it back to a childhood memory where you could say, I'm reacting this way because of what
And you're
happened.
able to identify if there was an unmet need or if yourself right now needed something in that moment, and you can integrate that. And the book kind of walks it through very scientific, very step by step, more than I could even speak at the moment about it, but just getting in tune with you, your reactions, your impulses, what you do when you're triggered.
Yeah.
All of that is so important in navigating your own wound story. That is
I,
in all of us.
I think it's fascinating to be not only recognize, right, how am I feeling? What is the story I'm telling myself right now?
Mhm.
Um, how well is my body reacting? What am I thinking? What am I doing? All of that. But then also to take it back to what need, like, what do I really want? What do I really need right now? And then being able to assertively communicate that need because that's the real priority is to be seen, heard, cared for, etc. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That all makes sense. And it all is like that's part of like even repair and relationships is if
Right.
you're going to be triggered by the people you're in relationship more because you love them, but then you're able to say, hey, the yelling really triggered me because in my childhood, yelling often came with violence. And it makes me feel very, you can kind of communicate those to your person
Right.
and they can help support you in that.
Right. Right. And hopefully, right, we're not hanging around people who are yelling a lot.
Yes.
But
Yes.
sometimes my guess is it could even be like yelling at the football game or just like loud commotions. Like it doesn't even need to be yelling at you and pointing the finger. It could be just yelling in general, or, I'm just thinking of other situations that somebody might not even know or recognize could be triggering.
Yes. And there's tactics that you can do even when you are triggered in a normal-ish situation like that, like the football screaming, woo. You don't want to have them not be who they are true to themselves with that excitement. So you have to learn, how can I come to neutral? How can I come back to home? And that's where some of the exercises and the homework that is in I'm triggered is so important, like the breath work,
Yeah.
the all of that stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, so in your 20s, it sounds like you already had some kids by the time you did this treatment. How many
yes,
kids? And you met your husband and
yes, I have two beautiful kiddos, a boy named Gunnar Black and a daughter named Birdie Love. And they are the reason why, hugely, why I wanted to take a different path, to relearn, to erase the generational curses that were over me and those ties. I didn't want to repeat the patterns that I saw and that were shown to me. I wanted to do a different thing, and they pushed me more towards the healing phase.
amazing. And with a lot of the Dream Life coaches I work with, oftentimes they're on their own healing journey, right? And then now that they've, come 3 steps ahead, they want to coach and work with other people behind them. And one of the things that we've talked through is parenting when triggered, parenting when you're on your healing journey. And it's just interesting to think through, they most likely got to see you on your growth journey, and that's
Mhm.
inspiring in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that 1 year of intense therapy, anything else during that 1 year that you think was helpful?
Honestly, the people that were coaching me, like you said, having a group of solid women, men, people that you can have supporting you and walk you through the healing and the relearning and when you are falling under the water, they can help you back up. That the support system for sure.
Awesome.
So important.
Now, are they doing this surgery now like mainstream? Is this something that's available?
So it's becoming more and more. Um, I can see the clinics popping up. I can see surgeries are becoming more and more, but insurance it's not covering it, and it's not out there yet as something that can be like I don't know what a surgery nowadays that like
Yeah.
a pacemaker. We
Yeah.
know that helps with the heart. This is
Right.
not something that is like, oh yeah, that will help with that for sure. Insurance will cover it. This is something a little bit in the works still. We're trying to push.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does life look like now?
Yeah, I would say I'm in the phase where I'm letting God lead and I feel called to help people just like I was down in the trenches. I feel like now it's my turn to grab someone's hand out of the foxhole and help them out. And I'm just praying and asking God to lead me in that direction. But that's where I feel called is to help those get out of what I got out of.
Right. To offer hope to those who have experienced atrocities. I mean, no children should have to live through what you lived through. And it's so inspiring to know that it's not a death sentence. Like you can live a fulfilling life and you may have scars, but it doesn't have to own you like it once did.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
what is one thing that you do every day that you can't live without, that keeps you focused and calm? You know, it's like a part of your now your daily coping skill regimen.
Well, I listen to teachings and just putting something in my ear and listening to it is very grounding. Um, I can't live without listening to podcasts, listening to music, listening to something hurts, even
Yeah.
vibrations.
Yeah.
That is for sure. And God, my number
Awesome.
one.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, is there, do you know when your books, we've got I'm Triggered and Vulnerable, but you said they're almost ready, but not quite ready. Tell us when you think they'll be on Amazon.
Yeah, I feel like I'm triggered could be within the month.
Okay.
Vulnerable, I'm still waiting on my last reader, but hopefully next month.
Okay.
I was saying
Awesome.
this year would be my goal for Vulnerable. It's very personal and sacred, and I want to make sure it's right.
Awesome. So I would say within the next, 6 weeks, you guys check on Amazon for I'm Triggered and Vulnerable, and we'll definitely post about it when they're available as well. I feel like even creating these pieces is probably a part of your healing journey.
Yes, it
Yeah.
absolutely was. Yep.
Getting it out, kind of linear, like trying to make sense of, I mean, obviously you can't make sense of evil, but, putting it in a linear form, making new meaning out of what was happening, recognizing that it's wasn't you. It was the addicts around you. Um, yeah, I have to imagine that even these projects were really important.
Yes.
Yeah. How are your siblings? Do you have any relationship with them?
Yes, we are growing in connection as I am starting to release information about the books. And I'm even realizing God's in that. And it's wonderful how even reconciliation can be with that. And that's still unfolding, but I love that we're reconnecting.
Good. And then your foster family or adopted family, are you still in connection with them?
Yes, yep, we're still in connection. Things are, a lot better than they were when I was in turmoil. Now that I'm healed, the relationship is definitely repairing and we're reconciled. So that's a blessing.
Amazing. There's a study once that said the people that were in Hurricane Katrina that didn't leave and stayed and had to be rescued. And I mean, obviously they experienced more PTSD than the people who got themselves out. And so, there's a couple layers to that, but one of them is you getting yourself out is such an important part of your healing journey versus someone coming in and rescuing you.
Yes.
And so the fact that you took the step and you used your voice and you were believed and they did something quickly, I feel like all of that is such an important part of your healing journey. So good for you. That takes a lot of courage. But you didn't stop there. You continue to dig deep and really identify like who did God create me to be and how can I step fully into her. And now it sounds like you are, you know, I mean, as emotionally stable as like life still happens, I'm sure, right? We
Yes,
still all have our ups and downs, but you're not as maybe the extremes.
absolutely. And that is such a blessing.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. You guys definitely check out I'm Triggered and Vulnerable, and we'll be in touch and let you guys know when they're out. Have an amazing day, you guys. We'll see you next time.